Welcome to episode 25. Yes, indeed, the silver anniversary episode of Stray Dog Footy, an American podcast on Australian rules football. Some people call me Frodo, and if you don't know who I am, just know that I am a huge Western Bulldogs fan, and I am coming to you from the far away from AFL Footy state of Florida, USA. Hence the name of the pod, as I'm sure you have already surmised. I hope you are doing well out there, staying safe, and for my Victorian friends and or listeners, hopefully your COVID lockdown restrictions will soon be relaxed. So before we get into the matchups, I recently was made aware of a new streaming service I want to tell you about called AFL On Demand. While it is still in early beta mode, meaning it is not finished, it looks promising. There's all sorts of footy content already, and there seems to be much more that's going to be added. Now, you won't be able to watch live AFL matches for free on here. You will still have to settle for whatever your local TV provider decides you want to see. Or, as I'm sure you know by now, I highly recommend you go get the Watch AFL app to see every match and much more. But this new site looks like it's going to be a great hub of all things footy. And according to the AFL On Demand site, there will be no charge for the service. Cheap is good, free is better, am I right? You can go to www.afl.com.au/ondemand to learn more. I also recently got a great bit of news in my personal email. If you listened to this podcast for a while, you may have heard me mention that I recently added a Top Dog membership to my account. Basically an entry-level coterie sometimes reserved for businesses and corporations. Well, I was informed that I would soon have a new account manager who would be my liaison for any coterie membership issues that arose. And this role would be filled by none other than former Bulldog star Dale Morris. First of all, I'm so happy that Moz has been able to stay with the club in this capacity. When he was stood down and finally let go early this year due to COVID, myself and many other Bulldog fans were quite distraught about it. I'm sure I'm not the only one who gets annoyed when they see Matty Boyd on the sidelines in a Collingwood shirt, and it would break my heart to see Moz in the wrong colors too. I am so happy for Morris himself, who I am certain had quite the emotional roller coaster this year. I recently heard on the Barclay Street podcast by Moz himself that our own CCO Nick Trulson was responsible for getting him the position, so thank you, sir, for that. I'm sure the entire Bulldogs family feels as elated as I do that Dale can stay with the club. And though I wasn't anticipating any issues to arise with my Top Dog membership, we'll see what I can come up with now. Because emails from Dale Morris wasn't a perk I was expecting, for sure. Okay, let's take a quick look back at round 18, the last round of this weird, abridged, late and COVID-crazy 2020 AFL season, before we get into the finals. On Thursday night, we had North Melbourne and West Coast. Though the Roos gave the Eagles a scare by leading early, it was all tied up in the fourth when West Coast put the hammer down, winning by a score of 49-34. Then on Friday Night Footy, we saw St. Kilda and GWS. So, maybe it's just me, but it certainly seems like the new car smell has worn off of GWS, and the critics are circling. But give the Saints credit where it is due, as they beat the Giants handedly 82-30, securing themselves a place in the finals. Next, Saturday began with the Bombers and the Demons. Winning by a score of 68-49, Melbourne sat within the top 8 for a few hours, but ultimately it proved to be a disappointing season for both clubs. Again, on Saturday, we had the Crows and Tigers. No surprise here, Richmond seems to be everyone's favorite to win the premiership this year, and easily won by a score of 77-33. But Adelaide knew this was going to be a rebuild year, and you could see small improvements almost every round. The Tigers, for their part, secured themselves a spot in the top 4. And next, also on Saturday, we had Brisbane and Carlton. the Lions secured their place in the top 4, even challenging for a while for the minor premiership by winning by a score of 78-61. But the day still sort of belonged to Cade Simpson, who played his last match of AFL footy, game number 342 at Carlton, and kicked a beautiful goal on the run from outside the 50. Then Sunday we had the Hawks taking on the Suns, with Hawthorn stomping Gold Coast 108-57. Honestly, I think both clubs are happy this season is over, so they can start to work on next year. But I can't help to feel bad for the Suns fans yet again. But I wouldn't be surprised if they play finals next year. Then we had the Swans and the Cats. Despite a gutsy and determined effort by Sydney, Geelong managed to edge them by a single goal, 69-63, securing themselves a spot in the top 4 and all the privileges this affords. I will get into that in more detail in just a few moments, but first we have to talk about the next important match. For also on Sunday, we had Freo taking on my Bulldogs up there at Kazali Stadium in the humidity of Cairns. In what was basically an early playoff game, the Doggies had to win this match in order to make it into the finals. If they lost, then Melbourne would sneak their way in. Well, cancel the cheese platters, Demons fans, because the Bulldogs came to win, and they did just that. Mitch Wallace, in his 150th game, scored his 100th goal with a seemingly impossible soccer kick from beside the goalpost. After the first, the Bulldogs were ahead by only 1 point, and early in the second, Freo would momentarily take the lead from some of Fife's elite kicking. But by halftime, the Dogs were out to a 2-goal lead and never looked back. By the final siren, the Bulldogs won by a score of 74-44, securing a place in the finals. Unfortunately, both Mitch Wallace and Aaron Naughton left the match with injuries. Wallace was slammed into the ground late in the game, jarring his shoulder, and Naughton was taken to hospital with a depressed cheekbone fracture that would require surgery. The good news is that both are expected to recover in time for the first round of the finals, the bye week not hurting their chances at all. Then we wrapped up the regular home and away season with a Monday night clash between the Pies and the Power. The entire postseason fixture hung in the balance with this match, even including the minor premiership, which is what they call it when you finish atop the standings at the end of the season. It was a back-and-forth affair for much of the day, but in the end, Port Adelaide pulled away and secured their win, as well as the number 1 position on the ladder. So, after what has probably been the craziest AFL season anyone has ever seen, here's where we stand in the postseason or finals. At 1, where they have stayed all season long and winning the minor premiership, we have Port Adelaide. I'm pretty sure Coach Hinckley gets to keep his job next year. What do you guys think? At 2, there's Brisbane, 3, Richmond, and at 4th, we have Geelong. These clubs all hold spots in the top 4, meaning that even if they lose their first match of the finals, or the qualifying finals as they are called for the top 4 teams, they aren't eliminated. But with a loss, they will have to play again the very next round of the finals, which are known as the semi-finals, where they will play a winner from one of the lower 8 finals matches. However, the teams that win the qualifying finals get to take the fast track and actually skip the next round and go straight to the preliminary finals 2 weeks later. From then, it's just one more win and you're in the grand final. Of course, any loss by a top 4 club after the first round means you are out. No more second chances. Now, for the lower 4 of the top 8, where we have West Coast at 5th place, St. Kilda at 6th, the mighty Bulldogs at 7th, and finally Collingwood in at 8th. These teams are all playing for their lives and have to win every single game to make it to the grand final. No second chances here at all. So you can see why even finishing 4th over 5th is hugely important. That second chance could make or break your finals run. As an example, in 2016, the Sydney Swans lost to GWS in the first round of the finals, but ended up winning their next 2 matches to get themselves into the granny. Now, Meeting them there was a team from all the way down in 7th spot who had actually put together 3 straight underdog wins in enemy territory. I am, of course, talking about the Western Bulldogs. And unfortunately for the Swans, we all know that the Bullies made it 4 finals wins in a row, the club winning the grand final for the first time in 62 long years. And in fact, the only team to ever win it all from such a low spot on the finals ladder. If it all sounds confusing, don't worry. I'll be going into more specific detail for each matchup of the upcoming first round of the finals. First up, on Thursday, October 1st, we have number 1 Port Adelaide versus number 4 Geelong in the first qualifying final. The winner here will get to skip next week's semifinal and go straight through to the preliminary round. The loser is still alive, but must now play next week's contest, the semifinal. This match between Port and Geelong starts at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone here in the States and will be shown on Fox Sports 2. On Friday, October 2nd, we have number 2 Brisbane against number 3 Richmond in the second qualifying final, also starting at 5:30 a.m. Eastern and will be shown on Fox Soccer Plus. So if you paid extra for this channel, good on you. Once again, as these are both top 4 teams on the finals ladder, the winner gets to skip while loser has to play next round. On Saturday, October 3rd, we have 2 matches, beginning with St. Kilda sitting at number 6, taking on my Western Bulldogs in the famous number 7 spot in the first elimination final. The loser of this game is out of the finals, and the winner gets to move on to next week's semifinal round. This critical match starts at 2:30 a.m. my time here on the East Coast of the United States and will be broadcast on Fox Sports 2. Then the last match of the first round of the finals, where we have number 5 West Coast versus number 8 Collingwood in the second elimination final. The match begins at 6 a.m. Eastern, U.S., and will be shown on Fox Sports 2. Same rules as in the previous contest. Loser goes home, winner moves on. Okay, so before I wrap up this episode, I believe it's time for another edition of Bulldog Bio. Today I will briefly talk about old number 29, Tory Dixon, who, a day after celebrating his 33rd birthday on September 26th, announced his retirement. Having been overlooked by the AFL draft, Dixon spent time at various Victorian Football League and Eastern Football League clubs, including Williamstown, Bendigo, and Frankston, where he won a Best and Fairest award in 2009. In 2011, at the ripe old age of 24, he decided to make another go at becoming an AFL-level player, and Tory was drafted to the Western Bulldogs at pick number 57. He made his debut round 1 the following season. Though he only played for 8 years and 114 games, he will always be known as a very accurate goal kicker, scoring 181 goals and just 61 behinds, earning him the nickname Dead-Eye Dixon. In fact, he retires as the most accurate kicker in the competition in the over 200 registered scores category, with nearly a 75% accuracy. He was instrumental in the Bulldogs' 2016 Premiership run, scoring 40 goals that year, including 3 in the grand final itself. But goal scoring wasn't his only attribute. Many may remember his kick on goal at the Siren during the preliminary finals win over GWS, it being such a joyous moment. But my personal favorite Tory Dixon moment isn't even a particular goal, though he has many incredible ones to choose from. My favorite was from round 3, 2018 on April 8th, when he ran down Essendon speedster Connor McKenna and open field tackled him on the boundary, like a shark closing in on its prey, much to the Irishman's dismay. All I can say is happy belated birthday, and thank you for everything, Dicko. All the best. And for one last time, Tory, hallelujah. Speaking of birthdays, I would be remiss if I didn't also wish a belated happy birthday this week to a legendary gentleman, in every sense of both words, Mr. John Schultz. Pretty much considered to be the patriarch of the Bulldogs, Mr. Schultz was an All-Australian player and Brownlow winner, just two amongst many other accolades, while playing for the then Footscray Bulldogs in the 50s and 60s. I will certainly do a much more in-depth Bulldog bio on this Bulldog legend in a future episode. Happy birthday, sir, and many, many more. And speaking of all Australians, a huge congratulations go out to Caleb Daniel for his first AA Blazer Award, even if a bit overdue. And to Jackson McRae, who added to his wardrobe in now back-to-back seasons. And finally to Marcus Bontempelli, who took home the All-Australian Award in the same season as he took on the immense responsibilities of being a new team captain in what has perhaps been the most unusual and challenging peacetime season ever. Well done, gentlemen. Well deserved by one and all. And there's at least 3 extra footy cards I will be collecting next season. Well, I think that should just about do it for this episode. As always, I thank you so much for listening, and I would be so very thankful if you'd be kind enough to share a link to this podcast on your social media. Maybe even give me a like and a rating wherever you yourself listen to your podcasts. This particular podcast can be found on your favorite podcast player or at straydogfooty.podbean.com. Podbean being where I personally listen to my podcasts. I would, of course, love to hear your feedback. Please let me know what you like, dislike, or even hate about this pod. I am always willing to hear what I could do to make it better. As always, you can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Stray Dog Footy, and by email at straydogfooty@yahoo.com. And here's where I mentioned that I am not endorsed by or officially affiliated with either the Australian Football League or the Western Bulldogs Football Club, beyond being a huge fan and supporter. Likewise, I am not endorsed or affiliated with Peg and Rejected, but I am a fan of their music. I would like to thank them for the use of their song Red, White, Black, and Blue, which I use a portion of as the intro to this episode. I will also play us out to their entire song and, of course, leave a link in the show notes to their music. Alright, stay safe everyone, be kind to your fellow man, reach out to your loved ones, and enjoy the finals. And most of all, go Bulldogs!